Hey everyone, I'm Bradley, and welcome to Zlingle. For this video, I wanted to focus on what makes a good villain, and possibly how DC, and even Marvel, could improve their villains in their movies. This is just my opinion though, so take from it what you will. When I think back to a superhero film series that had several good villains, Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man comes to mind. The Green Goblin was his first adversary, and what made him so interesting? Besides his weird looking suit, which I actually like by the way. But it was his relationship with our hero that added so much dimension. Sure, we could have Peter Parker doing his own thing, getting his powers, and having trouble with bullies and girls. And then we could just cut to Norman experimenting with the serum, and going insane, and stealing the flight suit. And then Spidey and Goblin would have crossed paths for the first time at the fair, where Norman wanted to assassinate the Oscorp board members. They fight, Goblin escapes, he later gives Spider-Man a chance to join him, Goblin lures Spider-Man to a burning building to give him one last chance to become his ally, Spidey says no, and he escapes. But what then? They just have one last big action fight scene until one of them eventually dies, like so many other superhero movies. Well, that happens anyway. Oh. But what makes the climax of this movie so good is that Spider-Man and Green Goblin's secret personal lives are intertwined from the beginning. It's his best friend's father that he's fighting, but neither of them know it at first. Instead of just having random fun popcorn fight scenes throughout the movie, because it's a superhero movie and it's mandatory, each time Spider-Man and Green Goblin interact in the film, there's a reason for it, and it changes their dynamic. Norman learns who Peter is because he notices that Peter is injured in the same spot he hurt Spider-Man, so he uses that to his advantage to threaten both Aunt May and Mary Jane. But then that final confrontation occurs, in which Norman finally reveals himself and the two main characters are back on equal ground.
It's me!
It's this intellectual back and forth on who knows what about who, and it really helps put yourself in the perspective of not only the hero, but the villain as well. Notice how I said the two main characters. That's because this is Norman Osborn's movie almost as much as it is Peter Parker's. We watched this relatively good guy, with flaws, yes, but he's this average guy who tries his best to excel in his field, and then gets betrayed by his colleagues. And not unlike Bruce Banner and the Hulk, an accident happens, which causes his psyche to snap, and has another entity inside of him trying to take control. If we cut out the Spider-Man parts, Norman could be the protagonist of his own story. Can you say the same about Electro, Rhino, or even the Green Goblin from The Amazing Spider-Man 2? Or how about Mr. Freeze from Batman and Robin? Malekith? Bullseye? Hector Hammond? No, because they are just used as a plot device, not a character. A reason to have a cool action scene, or quippy dialogue.
What killed the dinosaurs? The Ice Age!
Or, I don't even know what Hector Hammond was used for. But this concept continues with the sequel, Spider-Man 2. Except this time it's somewhat reversed. Peter knows who Dr. Octopus is the entire film, before and after he becomes a villain. But Octavius doesn't know who Spider-Man is until he reveals himself at the final battle, like Norman did. Except it was to try to convince Otto to redeem himself, which he does. Just like with the Green Goblin, this is Otto Octavius' story, as well as Peter's. Dr. Octopus isn't just a faceless villain who wants to destroy the city or rule the world with the hero trying to stop him. This is a character with a personal goal while also being corrupted by the mechanical arms. The last example I want to bring up is probably the greatest comic book villain, and is possibly the best supervillain in a film ever. Heath Ledger's Joker.
Never start with the head. The victim gets all fuzzy.
He doesn't have a dual identity that relates with Bruce at all, but the movie does a terrific job at setting up personal stakes for Bruce to make Joker a real threat. Joker kidnaps and kills his girlfriend, and manages to get Harvey Dent to become a killer. And like I've mentioned before, this is a Joker/Batman movie. Each side is getting tested. Each character has a firm set of morals they aren't willing to deviate from.
This town deserves a better class of criminal, and I'm gonna give it to him. It's not about money, it's about sending a message.
So in conclusion, a good villain shouldn't just be used as a plot device or excuse for more action. They can certainly play a part in those roles, but to make an antagonist that holds up to many rewatches, there needs to be more to them. Now I understand why Marvel uses villains the way they do. Marvel Studios has a pattern of not having the antagonist overshadow the hero whatsoever. Except Loki.
I am Loki of Asgard,
and I am burdened with glorious purpose.
Because they want the audience to focus on the hero. That's what makes them have characters you love seeing on screen, like Rocket and Groot, or Captain America and Iron Man. The Marvel villains in the movies are an afterthought, a way to distinguish one film in a series from another, and that pattern seems to work out great for them and fans. In my opinion, they don't necessarily make bad villains, they just tend to underutilize them and make them almost irrelevant sometimes. But I usually love the movies anyway, so really, there's no right or wrong way to do it. For the most part, at least. As long as you make something memorable that people love to watch, and make fans and casual moviegoers have a good time in the theater. Anyway, that's just the way I see it. If you like this video, then you should surely show it, and subscribe if you haven't. I'm always working on more content for you guys. So that's it for now, enough said, and Excelsior.